5:31, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First is the annual organization meeting, elect chair and clerk. So here are the nominations for clerk. Should be him.
I'll nominate Brad as clerk.
The nomination been made and seconded. I'll second it. Is there any discussion? All in favor of electing Brad as clerk, Morrisville Water and Light, say aye. Aye. Ayes have it. Next is to elect chair of the Water and Light trustees.
I nominate Bob Ingham.
Nomination's been made. Is there a second? I will second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of electing Bob Hinu as the new chair of the Morrisville Water and Light trustees, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Congratulations.
I'll get the gavel.
I didn't get it.
Virtually.
Okay, it's all yours.
Okay, well, we'll call the meeting to order. Consider any agenda adjustments.
Yeah, just for, when we get to item 8, no, not 8, item, oh, that's not right. The executive session, which is listed as 8, really is 10. Just add a second reason, which would be 313A3, which is personnel related. So, yep, they just acknowledge that you have 2 reasons to go into executive session, so
Okay.
one is contractual, one is personnel.
All right, any public comment? Do we have anybody from the public here? Doesn't look like it do. Okay, moving on to the minutes of the meeting of April 3rd. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we accept the meetings as printed.
I'll second.
All those in favor say, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is that it? Okay, the next item is check register approval. Do I have a motion to approve it?
I had one question.
Okay, I was gonna get the questions after we made the
I'll
motion.
make a move.
Oh, I'm sorry, of course.
I'll make a motion, sorry.
Any questions?
Do you second it, Brad? or you second it?
I'm sorry, second, yes. Well, who is Stella Jones Corporation? For 17,912.
Yeah, that's, who we purchased our poles from.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, they've got a new name, used to be McFarland Cascade, they got bought out.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
That's it.
I got a question too, Scott. Leonine Public Affairs, we put 3 items for them. They're the ones doing the state house work,
They are,
and don't we have a monthly rate with them?
so we have a monthly rate of 5,000, which is the general support for public affairs, you know, basically related to Green River.
So
And
we
we added 3 to that for the state house work this year, because they never, it never included the state house.
so
And then we.
that's for this year, that's not for this month.
It's per month,
So they got 5,000 for their regular,
and then 3 more. for
and
the
they
state
got
house.
48.24 for.
And the 48 something, that was for the newsletter, I think. And we just issued,
Okay.
so that was an expense. So the 3,000 will drop off after May, after this month, when the legislature goes home. So it's just an extra 3,000 a month during a legislative session.
Okay, I thought it was every month.
The 5,000 is every single month.
Okay,
The
okay,
additional
All right,
3,000 is
that's
just
for the
while
first
they're
one.
in session.
yeah, okay.
And I just have a question about the Stowe treasurer and the Wilford treasurer. For your taxes, is that the taxes? Yeah. And that's just, that's a quarterly thing,
I got to check that, but I think,
It's biennial.
some places do 3 times a year, some places do 2,
Stowe is twice a year, I don't know about
Okay,
the
so
other
it's-
town.
whatever each town does, and we're not all the same.
Are these for land, for poles, or what's?
And Stowe, I presume it's, the land we have up there related to those, to the electric system.
I think I asked this question once before, it's for poles, land, transformers, it's
Okay.
for all
all of our.
Everything.
Oh, the taxes, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
sorry, I was looking at something.
Just like we pay Morristown and we pay Hyde Park.
I didn't know if we paid for poles.
That's what I thought, so, yeah.
Okay.
I believe so. It's the current value, so they depreciate over time. So, you know, now they appraise it however they appraise it, but we appeal if it looks out of line with our numbers. We were really successful this year appealing Morristown's on a number of fronts, because they had really high numbers in the reappraisal. And we got like 4 different accounts lowered.
Good.
By going to the appeal sessions, so.
There was a change in how the towns appraising our property in their town, and the polls is one of the items that changed. They seem to be interested in the ones that we're getting rentals from. I don't know who changed the formula, if it was the state or the town itself, but it's not every poll that we're getting taxed on. It's the ones that are
How do they
joint
know?
owned. We
Got
know who owns what pole and what down. Yeah.
By the way, anyone that's telecom related is not gonna wanna own poles anymore. If the legislature currently is considering adding a tax to all telecom, because they're worried about streaming and all that stuff, and so. Right now, we own some of the poles and the telecom companies own some, they're gonna wanna get rid of every single pole that they own.
So they're spending money to advance telecom,
And they're gonna tax them.
and then they wanna tax.
And they're also gonna tax streaming services, since no one's buying cable anymore. So the streaming
So
services
it's
is
streaming
another
online.
tax, so you, like, you know, Netflix and all that, there's gonna be a state tax on that.
You know, it's funny because with my cable, I can stream on Netflix, I don't have to do it on the internet.
Right,
So how would they tax that?
and I don't know how.
They figure out. a way.
They'll figure out, they'll make a cable company, well, you already get taxed if everything goes through your cable bill.
Just add to it.
We all kinds of taxes on there.
And, H Brothers Tree Service, I guess they're doing some more tree trimming, I just finished it.
Yeah.
For 41,976.
Yeah, transmission cutting.
Yeah.
And they're really going through it. At the same time, the transmission cutting is a little bit more expensive, so the bills are rolling in a lot faster on our pre-trimming budget.
Okay,
We're prepping for the big transmission project between here and Hardwick this summer. And Dave and this crew are gonna replace how many poles?
between here and Harvard,
24?
Yeah, from Garfield Road to Morrisville used on.
now is that tying them into our link or us tying into their
We
link?
already are linked. This is just replacing some really old transmission poles that are
Yeah.
dangerous. So this is replacement, correct?
Yes,
Nothing new there, just.
It seemed like Woolcott was replacing a lot of poles too, I don't know if they
they
either do.
started 2 years ago and did their same corridor.
Cool, so. Yeah, that's our focus for pole replacement this year.
Well,
We really want to do
Either to
that.
put them up now or it is in the middle of February.
That's right.
Agreed.
So,
Okay, so. Motion to approve the check register has been made, it's been seconded.
Been second, I seconded.
yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the term sheet battery project.
Right, we've been through the battery thing about 6 times, so I won't say
Yeah.
too much tonight, just, you know, the actual term sheets in front of you, keep in mind, the term sheet is just that. We would still end up bringing a contract to you before anything final. But the term sheet tries to lay out the basic scenario, so that both parties know what they're getting into. And then they start doing the permitting, and if there's surprises, of course, we can get out, right? And they can too, but because it's a 30-month supply chain process, the term sheet lets them get started on the permitting and get a place in line for the equipment, so, you know, it takes 30 months to get this equipment, so. So that's what's in front of you. I'm happy to talk about the economics or anything else, but we've been talked about it numerous times, so.
I think we went over it pretty well last time.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't bring a big presentation. Deb's asked if we could come and present all the economics. I was like, no, we've already done it.
Okay, anybody want to hear anything else about the economics?
The only questions I had is like, if we, there are all these things that would add on to the
Yeah.
bill. If we take more power than.
Yeah.
And if they generate more power, or we generate more power. And give it to them, we have to pay them for extra power over a certain limit.
Basically, no, I mean, they'll keep it focused to their benefit. The easiest way to think about this is, so they're gonna be managing that battery 24/7, right? We're entitled to one full discharge of it a day, for whatever purposes we want.
Whatever time we want,
So
so,
whatever time you want, so you basically have first call, and we don't have to do it all in one shot. We could do it in 3 different time periods in a day, if that's what was best for us. The rest of the day, they're gonna be charging that and discharging it, to make money however they can. And we share in the profits of what they do with that, you know. So if more's going in, yeah, they're gonna be paying us what's going in and what's going out, and we're gonna share the profits, basically. So yeah, so it all balances out. The more they actually make good benefits, show use of it, the better off we are. But we get a guaranteed one full discharge, which is 5 megawatts of 22,000 kilowatt hours.
what's that, like 4 hours or something?
Basically, you could use it very slowly over the course of the whole day, Bob, if you wanted to. But if you used it full out, basically a 5 megawatt battery of lithium lasts, if you use it full out, it lasts 4 hours. So you end up at about 4x5, turns out to be about 22,000 kilowatt hours.
And so in peak times, we could be taking the whole thing for 4 hours.
Right.
Okay,
So that's basically the way it works. And then since they don't really know what the interconnect cost is, that can go up or down. So some of those construction related things, are still in flux.
Sure.
So they put a good, average value for interconnection in, for example, but then it says plus or minus 50. Either way, the cost can go up or down, on the monthly costs based on the capital costs and the interconnect costs and some of those things. So that's what we're trying to do with it.
Okay, it said the price will include an adder of 10 cents per kilowatt month for $50,000 required increase. That was what I didn't understand, is how that
So
was.
if the capital is higher, that increases that monthly cost per kilowatt by that amount.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any other place that's been doing this that
Yep.
we kind of know about, or?
There was one of these in Heinsberg that VEC has had for 6 or 8 years, I think. That was the first one in Vermont. GMP has 1 or 2 around. There's 4 under development with VEPSA communities right now. None of them are installed. I know Orleans has 1, we have 1, Ludlow, Linden. Maybe there's 1 more. I think of. So these are gonna be all over the place, because if we're being forced to use solar and wind, and we're not allowed to, and they don't like hydro, the only way to keep the lights on is that batteries. It's not a good way to keep the lights on, it's the only way. So,
Okay, good, thank you.
yeah, do I have a motion to approve the contract with Encore, or the term sheet with
Yeah.
Encore?
I'll make a motion to move to authorize management to enter into the proposed term sheet on behalf of Morrisville Water and Light with Encore Renewable Energy.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, moving on to planning service, payment approval.
we got, just in case my terms don't make sense, this is the 4,000 twice a year for.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
We do it this year. I'll move that we do it.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Tom's not here. All those in favor?
I,
Aye,
Aye. Motion
You
approved.
need to sign that? Just the chair. Just anywhere, doesn't matter where. Thank you.
Okay, other business. The annual meeting planning debrief.
Yeah, I put it on here just in case there's anything about the annual meeting, just so we, just opportunity, what can we do better next year, and we go okay, meet your expectations, any. I was guessing there wasn't much, but I just figured why not put it on the agenda and.
Yeah, I think, you know, we had an oversight, it could have been corrected. If somebody said something, I mean, somebody asked us to, I'm sure we would have changed, added something to the agenda, but it wasn't asked.
Yep.
And, all right,
now very, I thought it went smooth and, you know, very informative. I thought it was a pretty good presentation on your behalf. I haven't heard anything negative about it, so.
some people were surprised.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't realize the scope and the length of this situation with the hydro plants.
Yeah. Yep, it's good to get the information out there. Great, well, I didn't, like I said, we don't spend a lot of time on it, I just wanted to make sure. there was
Yeah,
no
okay.
opportunity. That's all.
Okay, management update.
Let's first do the management report. Kevin, you can go ahead if you want.
We've been neck deep with FEMA lately and got out with three of the contractors, local contractors, to look at the work that needs to be done at well to Green River Reservoir Road, access road repair and damage at Katie's Falls. So those bids are starting to come in, so that's a good thing. They're pushing us to get that done. As far as Katie's Falls go, though, ERG promised us timeline for getting that back together at our last meeting, and we're hoping to have it today. Keith, we showed to Keith again, the president of the company, and he was going to have a meeting and give us a call before day's end. We've got a few more hours left, so I don't know, I'm not losing faith in him, but kind of losing faith in him, so.
I mean, is there anybody else that does this kind of work?
There are a number of places out there, but
Well, when we're done with that, we ought to look into the other places.
we've had that discussion today. I mean, how we get out of this one now is.
I mean, we're too far in.
Yeah.
excuse me,
And, you know, the circuit breaker overhauls or repairs. I mean, we ought to look into replacing them with a company that can let us borrow one. if we need one, rather than let the thing sit idle and what it costs and lost revenue.
Absolutely.
So I think we should look into that.
Yeah, definitely. Morrisville's running as best we can with the big unit. The smaller unit, we had the divers up. I don't know if I mentioned last time, they brought a remote unit up to try to take a look, and it was too mucky and there was too much flow through there, so. But with what they discovered, the divers were comfortable going in, so they did, and they got in, looked, and the gate is free as a bird, which is nice, and actually, they were actually able to move it, so. The problem is in the actuator, and the guys that were up last time gave us a contact, some company in New York.
Is the actuator hydraulic or pneumatic?
It's electric.
So it's a kind of electric motor drive underwater?
It's the actuator assembly's above, but it did
Okay, it
get,
goes down with the gear.
yeah, it did get inundated during the flood. So they suspect it's just stuff in there that's been building up as we've been using it, even though we cleaned it.
I mean, down the lower end, you can't turn the shaft with a pipe wrench, it just doesn't turn.
Right. I think it's 100 turns, 100 turns. There's a wheel that you can do it manually with, and it's 100 rotations for one rotation of the lead screw. So the guy we've gotten in touch with has all the pieces, parts to repair it, and if we can't get it freed up with what he's recommended, then they'll come up and try to replace it. So that's good news on that part. The motor's good. We've had it measured. The motor works. It's just torquing out because there's something in the actuator that's bugging it up. So we can get that off our plate. As far as the racks go, it kind of goes hand in hand. M&K divers, we need to have an inspection of Green River still in pool. So I contacted M&K divers to do that. And while he's here, sit down with us and come up with a game plan for how we're gonna attack the trash racks at the gatehouse
Activities. Activities.
at Morrisville.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
So-
Good morning.
So, yeah, so all these projects are finally getting sorted out and in line and getting some traction, getting resolved. And Green River, just when you didn't think something else could happen, well, we lost our. So, we spent most of yesterday and a good part of today with Consolidated. They've been very responsive, but it's one of the oldest circuits, I don't know about in the country, but certainly in this neck of the woods, so they've got that reestablished and all as well.
Yeah.
On the waterfront, Brad and Travis, John and Brian went out and marked all of the curb stops and wastewater or sewer service line cleanouts. A&E is gonna be here tomorrow and or Friday to survey that. They're gonna get all the information they need to do the engineering work for a new water line upgrade along here. So if anybody asks, people have called.
So it's a
You guys
new
are in
water
there.
line.
Yeah. So they'll do the engineering work this fall and go out to bid hopefully next summer to do that work. And on Best Street, the bid opening is tomorrow, so 1 o'clock, we'll see who wins that, and then we'll notify the customers that live on Best Street that they're gonna get a new water line this summer, hopefully.
Now, I saw you walking down Best Street with your bidders, I guess.
Yeah.
And you actually came out onto Jersey Heights and Main Road. Not all the way.
Yeah, well, part
Did you
of,
see where the road's sinking?
oh, yeah,
You got a sinkhole right in the middle of the road, right by your
absolutely.
your sewer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the town has determined, well, there's a storm drain on either side and the line is collapsed in the middle. So
That's the big belly.
Yeah,
that goes
that's what
down
they
10
suspect.
inches.
Yeah. So, they've been holding off paving Best Street because they knew we wanted to do the work, so.
Mhm.
In doing the water line, the town is going to ask the winning bidder if they can, while they're excavating for the wet tap. Excavate that area and either repair or replace that line, or they may try to run it down alongside the road, but that's outside of our
That
scope.
would be
They
a
just
town
want-
loss, not a Morrisville. Just to be clear.
Oh, run I'll call it the south side, under Best Street and down to the next manhole down by Mandigo's old house.
Could be, yeah. I think they're gonna, I don't know if they're gonna exhume what's there to figure out what's best to do, but they've got a few options they wanna explore, so. So again, once, our contractor will do our work while they're there. And do some for the town, which is separate from us, but. Well, that'll be a good job done this summer. That was about the biggest highlights since we last met.
I have had, I was gonna say a lot, but let's say 3. I think 3 is the correct number. There's been a little consternation about this project down the road here. So the answer, if you get asked, is that there's no cost in that at all that any of our ratepayers are paying for. That's 100% paid for by the owner of that little yellow house. He's got it, it's 651, I guess it is.
They're building another house back there,
There's only
so.
like 4.
Four
Oh,
little
sorry.
separate-
Getting before the zoning change, huh?
Yeah, so, and now we've had some costs, but they'll reimburse us.
Mhm.
Our Brian was down there inspecting and monitoring, helping with traffic and everything else, so, but they'll pay us for all of his time, so.
Mhm.
But because people hate construction and because the road got closed, it got really messy. It was a very difficult tie-in for them, which is why it took so long, but then all of a sudden, I got quite a few calls in a row of, are we paying for that? What the hell are we paying for more development for? Like, no, we're not paying a dime. So if you do get any of that, no cost
Yeah.
for us.
I think it's single family homes going up there.
I don't even know.
Building one.
Yeah.
One at a time, as a sell them. But was there damage done to the one? Did they cause some damage? Is that why?
Yeah,
Bigger than it was supposed to?
the engineering firm came out, took invert measurements to the sewer main. And according to their measurements, our water main is 5 feet down. They said the sewer main was 9 feet down, even though they mentioned it. So the first scoop they took out to do the wet tap collapsed our sewer main, so. It
Yeah,
immediately
fix
went
it all.
sideways.
Because is why it got to be a mess.
Yeah.
So,
Okay,
Grace Paving is doing the patchwork tomorrow for this, and MSI is going to clean out the 2 patches we need on Congress, so Grace can go right now, finish those as well.
that'd be nice.
The day we ride to the hospital.
And on a different street, on Demar's Road, where we technically spend the water line, the property, what? Is that gonna be paid? Are they somebody gonna pay that eventually, or do you know what their plan is,
I
or?
don't, that's all on, Mr. Barton and or the town.
I don't know if they have a certain time limit, they have to put it back to where they found it. Okay.
Anything else?
So, pole patrol transmission lines after windstorm, that's just the way we roll. If we have a significant event, we can have a tree that's threatening the lines or cause damage on the transmission line that doesn't necessarily create a customer outage. We have no way of knowing, customer hasn't been affected, they don't call and we don't know. So that, we did some of that because of the weather we'd had. Substation maintenance, that's a monthly maintenance thing. We're going in there and we're checking for obvious damage, bird strike, because the starlings like to come in this time of year and build nests in the substation. And then our equipment, we're doing checks on our relays. If they've told us there's been a fault in the transmission line, there's an indication, things like that. Miscellaneous maintenance of various sounds, that's, we get a call if there's somebody's service is hanging low. That's the kind of a maintenance thing we're gonna go in and take care of, that kind of a problem. I don't know if you recall the storms there Saturday and Sunday, that's kind of where the need to patrol our transmission lines came from. We did have some customers that were affected in Elmore and Stone. Empower mapping is just ongoing maintenance of our system map that we use for customer services, transmission line location, pole location. OMS, it has to be updated all the time. We get a shop day, it's raining out or something, the guys are working on that. We found the reason why Village Hyde Park did not stay on our system through our emergency tie switch. There was a breaker setting for the circuit that connects Hyde Park to our system that from the very beginning was not correct. And it was only under storm conditions that error was discovered. So we had to reprogram our breaker to the proper settings. We started providing Hardwick Electric with on-call services 1 week a month. We've done that once so far, and I understand that there's a formal schedule for 3 months or
3
longer.
months and
Yeah.
then potentially renewable, but with us, Orleans, Stowe, and then Hardwick can do 1 week of their own. So there's a 4 week rotation right now.
So they don't have enough help to. In Harbor,
Well, they only have 1 full lineman that I know of. Is
Yeah,
that right?
and that's correct, and he got injured, so he couldn't even respond himself, or, I guess he's back to work, light duty right now.
So,
Oh, what else is of significance there?
the last one,
Oh, yeah, the dredging pre-bid meeting, and we just got the bids back. There were 2 bids presented out of 3 who attended, and our low bidder is Blow and Cody. We haven't awarded the bid yet.
it's certainly affordable. I mean, we only have to pay 25% of it, but it's still quite an affordable bid.
Good.
What's your questions for David? On Penny's list, I would just note, since Kevin did she noted, and I'm happy to try to answer questions on her other stuff, but. So we spent a half day with our FEMA folks last week, and one of the big things we talked about, they brought their remediation person with them. So all of the projects we're normally doing are called the plumbing projects, things that were actually damaged directly by the flood. Remediation is if you try to fix it in a way so it doesn't happen again. So they brought them and we spent a long time talking about well 2 and well 3, on the water side of the house. Heretofore, and I think I probably reported to you, or Kevin did, or Penny did, somebody probably did, that it wasn't looking like they were terribly optimistic about working with us on the remediation project, because the cost differential from fixing it to fixing it correctly was so big. The guy they brought with them this time seemed quite optimistic that we had a real problem, and that they could work with us, so we're packaging all we have one more piece of information we want to get from our engineer that I don't think we've got yet. And then we'll get that to them, our real goal would be to get one of the wells out of the way of where the river's trying to move to. Move it closer to the road and further at a higher elevation so it can't flood. That was about a 5x cost compared to repairing well 2, which is what made them blanch. Like $250,000 to fix it, $1.25 million to move it. So we'll see. They definitely thought moving the generator further uphill so it wouldn't flood in the future. The guy was kind of matter of fact, like, well, of course you're gonna do that. That's not really expensive. So that was at least hopeful. I think you'll agree with that, Kevin, and we need one more piece of information from Aldrich and Elliott. And then we'll get all the information back to FEMA and hopefully they'll approve us for a remediation project. Remediation projects are usually 100%. That's the other nice thing about them, instead of 75. Yeah.
I can't remember his name, the fellow that was gonna put the Christmas tree farm down there by the wells,
Yep.
Greg,
is another thing. What we're moving to is gonna get any closer to where he has it, is it, or is he still gonna build down there after the flood?
We've got a lot that haven't started up, but we won't be closer.
Okay, all right,
We'll be coming probably right up close to the rail trail.
okay,
In there, just, we probably can't jump it and put it on the other side, but we probably come right as close as we can to that. We're trying to get the actual elevation we need to get to from our engineer. That's the piece of information we need for FEMA still, is what's the correct elevation to try to get to be safe? And can we get there on the north side of the rail trail, which we think we can. We believe it's gonna work, we just gotta get those pieces of information.
so we're gonna be drilling a whole new well.
If this all goes through,
Yeah.
yes. In fact, we had another flood in December, which we have now filed for reimbursement on to fix the big hole down near well 2 for the second time. That actually helps our case. Because now they're like, oh, this has happened more than once.
So no plan to keep the river from moving that way.
We're still talking to V-Trans about that, and we brought it up with FEMA as well, just, because maybe they want to bring V-Trans into it and talk about that at the same time. I don't know, like, V-Trans they're not saying no, but I think they're afraid of blaming them, which is not the point at all. I called them because I was like, if we lose our wells, then you got a bridge to nowhere. You got a bridge over a dry oxbow, because the river should be channeled, on the southwest side of your bridge. So you gotta put another bridge in with a 10-foot space in between to the current bridge. So that's basically what I said to them. Like, if you want to avoid building another bridge, you might want to join us in the dialogue.
You think they could put some
They could armor,
riprap, I mean, like a seawall at that point.
right, they could armor, it, absolutely,
I mean,
or seawall or
Well, you
whatever.
see what they did down on Route 100,
Right.
I'm not sure what town it is, if you're going down towards Rutland on Route 100,
Yeah.
where that whole side of the hill came down.
Yeah.
It looks like a granite quarry now, I mean, they put so much stone in.
Yep.
just below Bethel.
Bethel, yes.
Yeah.
The
on
place
Route
that
4. Yeah.
has some fried clams.
107, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. That's Tozier.
Tozier, right.
Tozier.
Yeah, so, and it's hard to get permits to do that stuff, and our hates armoring of, waterways with passion. But V-Trans, if anyone could do it, V-Trans could do it, because they have some sway with with A&R that nobody else has. Cause they can go blind to the governor and get an audience, and A&R has to come with them, then the governor puts a referee on, shirt on, and decides which way to go. That's how that works.
Mhm.
So, anyway, I just, if there's other stuff, Penny, did you wanna add?
Well, no, I just thought our neighbors up by well 3 were gonna maybe ask us if we wanted to acquire their property
Yeah, exactly, maybe,
after that, but.
who knows, but. Anything else from Penny's I can try to answer for you? Happy to try. While you're looking at that, I'll just say that, it looks like from what I'm hearing, I mentioned S213 in here will likely get vetoed. The betting money right now says everything except Vermont's budget well, everything will get vetoed. The governor's planning to veto every bill that comes to his desk, is what I'm hearing. And then the legislature, because there's like 30 bills are gonna go to his desk, and they're realizing that since it's an election year, they can't stay for another month to try to override 30 vetoes. So I guess the current thinking is the only bill they're gonna override is the budget itself. Because you gotta have a budget passed by July 1st, or the state government shuts down. So what I'm hearing is, all the rest of the bills will die on the vine, most likely, including S213. So between Lee and I and some friendly legislators, we're trying to get the language related to the deadline for the study on Green River, which is in S213, which will probably get vetoed and not get overridden. We're trying to get that added to the budget bill. Budget bills, I know, because
Now, is
for policy in a budget bill, it happens every year.
S13 the same one that has the provisions about the liability for the jams?
That got dropped. The
That's-
strict
that's
liability, we won that argument in both the Senate and this House. I testified both places. And then we were at that, and then after we got that part killed, we were able to use as a vehicle to get our deadline for Green River. But that deadline should show up in the budget document, based on what I'm hearing by friendly legislators on both sides. So that's what we're trying to do, and A&R apparently is not fighting it. So there is that. So that's what's going on in the State House, as far as I know. And I think if he was already, that was before the vote on the education secretary. So if the governor was in the mood to fight with the legislature before that vote, he's really in the mood to fight with them now. He's fighting that now, that she went down in flames. So he definitely will be vetoed a lot, is the point. We just talked about the battery project. I attached, our notice about the Amy Wade Special Project Fund that has been advertised everywhere, as we're supposed to do.
I got a question. We didn't spend all the money last year, right?
Right.
So there's more there than,
Nope, that's all incorporated. There's 10,000 available in the special projects fund. If the library had done their project, we would only have like $3,000.
but the library didn't do their project.
Say what?
They didn't do it.
Right, so that money, that's why we have 10,000, because they didn't spend it.
Well, I thought we put 10,000 in.
No, we put 500 in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. If they had actually done their project, we would have, remember people on the floor were saying, why is it only 500?
Yeah,
It's because the
because
money
the
was still
money's
left
carried
over,
over.
you
Okay.
know? So, yeah, so that's what we have. Got one project in so far, so,
What is it?
the town, which is kind of weird, the town, one of the decorative streetlights on the bridge on Bridge Street, broke off this winter. And apparently I'm informed that they are now included in the town's insurance policy, but they were not included in the town's insurance policy. So the town's asking as a special project, if we would fund the replacement of that pole. Just
For the pole, how much is that?
$7,000.
$7,000?
It's decorative.
For a metal pole?
Decorative, you can tell.
They do look like.
Can you describe it better than me?
It's cast aluminum, it's ornamental, to be antique looking, and the aluminum price, because it's aluminum, I'm sure that makes it pricey.
And it'll match,
Break
right?
off.
It'll match.
Oh, it better, yeah. They're,
Hey,
companies selling business, they still make that style, it's, yeah.
You know how it goes. He was asking how it worked.
We think it was vandalism.
That's,
Oh, great.
Think so? The insurance ought to cover vandalism.
Apparently, they just weren't even included in
They
the.
weren't in the policy.
In the policy.
No.
Tricia promises me that that's been rectified, because I told her that the first question you all were gonna have is if they fixed that, and she said yes.
I've never noticed it at all.
You've never noticed the decorative,
I don't see.
oh, I have, they're nice.
I'll look a little closer. Which side is it?
When we were talking the Bridge Street ones, right?
Yeah.
Cause there are some down,
Yeah,
downtown.
which one broke off?
Both sides, the one that broke off's downstream, closest to the store, Donaldson store.
Okay.
Yeah,
Does it match the ones on Copley going up to the high school?
Very similar, yeah.
God, there's a stint.
Now, didn't Mac buy those?
Say what?
Mac, Morrisville Alliance for Commerce and Culture,
I think they put the
bought
ones up,
those.
they put the ones up going up.
And that's why that's why Tricia's asking for the money, they're asking for it for the town through that. So you don't have to approve it, we'll see what else we get in.
Yeah,
I
okay.
did send a note to the library just to say, hey, you know, you didn't get around to doing your project last year. Feel free to reapply if you'd like, no promises.
Now, is that section of Bridge Street in the historic district?
I don't even know,
I don't think it is.
It is either.
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't know. So, more to come on that though, that'll be on an agenda upcoming, probably in June. But wanted to give everyone this month to apply, so.
That you can.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I included our regular, quarterly cash flow report that we promised you when we started doing all the internal borrowing. Nothing remarkable there, I didn't think, but if you had questions on that, I'm happy to answer. Then put that together, so we're holding pretty steady on the line of credit, so things have kind of stabilized there. And the other funds that we're moving around are, the accounting is all there for you. And I put the LCPC River Gauge letter because it specifically asked to share that with you. This is nothing we asked for. They specifically, when they emailed it to me, asked that it be given to you, so.
I'll just make a comment about that.
Yeah.
They wanna do this river gauge study to essentially to help with flood control, yet the state won't let us use the dam for flood control.
I know.
So who cares?
I'm with you.
They tell us there's gonna be a flood, you know, we're gonna say, well, go ask the state if we can lower the level.
Yeah.
By the time the state makes a decision, downtown Johnson's under 6 feet of water.
Yeah, and Cambridge is in Fairfax.
I agree. Two other quick updates. I did get a price back from V-Trans on the mile-long fence along the rail trail where we've had all the homeless encampments. It's $320,000. And the money that they had last year all got eaten up by flood recovery, so they don't have any money. So obviously, we're not doing anything on that. They're interested in co-filing a potential grant application with us, to do it together, and so we'll talk to them about that. David went and met them on site when they came and did the inspection of
A
that.
grant from who?
It'd be a community resilience grant. It's FEMA money that comes through the state. I don't really know how we qualify for that because nothing flooded there, but V-Trans seems to think we'd be eligible, for that. So we'll entertain that, but we don't have $320,000. It'd be nice to not have the problem of constantly having to file in court for money to try to recover money for cleanup from all the encampments that we're never gonna get. So, and yet the courts require us, to do that. The attorneys for the people doing it have gotten cagey, and now they require, invoice, bids for what the cleanup costs. So Kevin had to drag a person out there to get a place to clean it up. Which, the person never, once they get ordered to do it, they're never gonna give us a dime. You know, so we're then expected to go clean up the mess, because it's on our property,
How long is the fence?
it'd be a mile.
A mile?
So
What? Seems like the simple answer is to evict those people.
Well, we do it all the time, the cops do it all the time, then we go to court, and we're supposed to clean it up, but we can't remove their personal belongings, even though they're on our property, even though they probably stole them from somebody down the street. Or, we can't touch personal property, but we're supposed to clean up the human feces and the needles.
I thought you could take this stuff, but you had to put it in bonded storage.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but it's.
I mean, I had some tenants I threw out, and I was in the process of loading up the truck to go to the dump when the cops came again. They said, you can't do that. You gotta put it in bonded storage
Maybe
for a
we can
year.
do that, I just know it's a pain, yeah. So it's just a never ending circle, and yet people are, I mean, our issue, the reason we got into this and asked V-Trans is the community's afraid to use that part of the rail trail. You know, and that's why we started down this path, particularly when V-Trans said they had money, and they did last year. Partly because, remember, the governor was gonna take the whole ride the whole way, and his safety detail. And this started because V-Trans called me and said, is there anything you can do about these encampments? Because the governor's safety detail's worried about him riding his bicycle by this.
Well, you should fix it.
That's what I said, got any money, and at the time he did, and then like 2 days later, we had the flood and the money was gone.
Did he ever ride the trail with Bernie?
No, we never rode it. So,
Maybe we ought to try to get him back.
Instead of putting a fence, how about just planting, pricker bushes?
yeah, maybe we could do that, but
Poison
it'll
ivy.
be on our dime for now, so.
I'm
Stumps?
serious, I mean.
No, I get it.
Deterrent, you know?
I get it. We may have to do something like that.
Because a fence is just gonna keep, they're just gonna go.
Under it, or over.
What we were gonna do, what we were talking to them about is like a
Use
6 or
it
7 foot.
Yeah.
We were talking about like a 6 or 7 foot fence, and then at the ends, we were gonna give V-Trans an easement to go 90 degrees down the hill towards Lake Memorial. Well, these people are not in the best of physical condition, so they're not going way down the hill and back up to their encampment, and these people are not in such physical shape that they're scaling a 6 or 7 foot chain link fence.
Still dig.
Maybe they could dig under it, but it'd be hard. What we had agreed to do at the time was, we had agreed that we'd make it less convenient for them by before V-Trans put the fence in, we were gonna go in there with a bunch of brush hogs and just wipe the thing out as far back as we could.
Mhm.
So, you know, you're not gonna, if you're gonna camp there, you're gonna have to camp on a bank. We were gonna basically clear cut the level part.
I think if it's a problem for the rail trail, the state ought to take care of
Well, that's our position still. I just wanted to let you know that
it. Okay.
the price did come in. We're not offering to do anything. 'Cause
I mean, I wouldn't even evict them anymore.
the problem is we end up with
The
some
worse it
liability.
gets, the more V-Trans gets interested.
Exactly.
There is that, and maybe that's what we'll do, but we do, as the property owner, we do incur some liability when people are squatting on our property.
And yet we can't evict them.
I know,
Well, what's the matter with that picture?
I know, this is the way
After
it works.
30 days, they have tennis rights.
This is the problem with the laws in the state on this stuff, so. So we have felt like we need to evict them on a routine basis, but maybe we should just stop doing it, I don't know.
And see what happens.
Yeah, give
If
it
it
a go,
gets-
give it a go for 6
They'll move
months.
right out in the rail trail because it's nice and flat.
Yeah, it might. So that's that one. The only other one I wanted to make sure you knew of is, at the VEPSA meeting today, we heard a report from Velco on their long-range transportation plan. They didn't get as aggressive as us in our integrated resource plan, where we looked at what would happen if the state policy for electrification actually happened all the way. They modeled it at 60% adoption, not 100, like we did. And I just tell you, like, the governor recently got criticized for saying a number of $1 billion for the cost for infrastructure. Well, Velco alone has 2 projects each over $1 billion on their project list.
Just Velco.
Just Velco, so it doesn't include any of our stuff for GMPs or anybody else's, so, these are massive transmission projects, that are being proposed, and so this stuff gets really expensive really quick, so just wanted to alert you to that.
I follow the offshore wind projects a little bit,
Yeah,
and it seems like the big one in New Jersey, and one of the ones out of Rhode Island, they thought they were gonna get, 450 meg turbines
Yeah.
from GE.
Yeah.
And GE says they can't make them reliable. They can only like do 275.
Yeah.
That's what they have now.
Yeah.
And so that whole thing's.
Yeah.
Because there's no turbines available for the size of the project,
Right.
and it'd have to build so many more towers to get the total power that I don't think they have the permits for that many times.
Yeah, it's gonna be, I originally thought maybe by 2030 before this latest development. I think now you're talking 2035 before there's significant offshore wind. It's still coming because it's the only resource they got down there, because you can't rely on solar. Wind, at least, once you get out in the ocean, most of the time it blows. You know, the more consistent wind out in the ocean than there is on land. And so eventually they'll do it, Bob, I think, but it's gonna take much longer. Plus, with the supply chain stuff and COVID, all of the power purchase agreements that were in place got canceled by the people that won the contracts, because the supply chain increases were so much that they needed to get double the price. So they all backed out of the contracts, and now they're all getting rebid and all coming in at double the price.
And I know I worked peripherally on the Cape Wind project.
Yep.
And when it came down to the end, they couldn't sell the contracts for the prices they need to build the towers.
That's right, that's gonna be the challenge. Particularly, I mean, the only way it's gonna make sense, and this is not economic sense, this is any sense at all, let me be clear about that, is, you know, with all the policies that all the states have adopted, you know, as long as natural gas is allowed to be used, none of these projects make any sense. Because natural gas is gonna be cheap for 20 years at least, because until we work through all the frac gas available in Pennsylvania and New York and other places, like, natural gas is gonna stay at basically, you know, right now we're buying power at, 2 cents a megawatt on the open market, it's gas. You know, and our average, when you include renewables, is 10 cents, not 2. And that's not gonna change anytime soon, but, you know, with all these policies, like the legislatures, both sides have now passed the res bill, the governor will veto it, but that bill says 100% by 2030. So therefore, we cannot use any natural gas. So the only way that wind towers are gonna make sense is if the bans on fossil fuels actually go in place like all the states are adopting. And it won't make economic sense, but there'll be no other game in town. So they can do offshore wind at 10 cents, that's not a problem. You can't do it at the original 3 cents they were bidding. You know?
Oh, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'd be fascinating, but just wanted to know, I'm just glad, I think we were the first people that started trying to tell some truth about all these infrastructure costs. And now Velco just did the same thing in a really big way. And this thing, their long range plan, they're out publicly now with it, it's starting its public review, so. You know, they're gonna be talking publicly about what this transition, again, they're only doing 60% electrification. They're not doing 100.
Now, one of the points you made at the village meeting was, we'd be looking at what, $17 million in infrastructure increases?
Yeah, something like that,
And somebody said to me, well, we got, how many customers do we have? It's like maybe 5,000,
4,000.
4,000, okay, so you're looking at almost $4,000 a customer.
Right.
And,
It's crazy.
but you gotta figure all those people on solar aren't paying anything. So cut that, double.
You amortize it over 30 years, and so it's not like it's all at once, but yeah, but in aggregate costs, this is gonna be expensive. You know, on the flip side for us, we'll probably double our sales, right? 'Cause people
But it's not like you're working.
do use a lot more energy than you used to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's not like you're working on commission, just because the sales go up doesn't mean you're gonna make any more
well,
money.
but it helps you amortize the costs.
Yes,
Right, over
yes.
a wider base, so it helps that, with more sales, rates can stay lower than they would if we don't have more sales, that's the point, right? So, that's the economic argument to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, would say we probably increased our electrical use by 25%.
Yeah.
Because it basically made our monthly electric bill all year round, instead of just increased in some.
And for the people that adopt the technology, it's a good deal, because like, he's probably now for his electric vehicle paying ish $1.50 a gallon equivalent with electricity costs. The challenge is until everybody starts adopting it, the people that just see rates go up for the infrastructure and they haven't adopted the new net technology, so their traditional electricity is just more expensive, but they're not saving on gasoline and propane and heating oil. So if you don't adopt the technology, you lose economically. If you adopt the technology, you win economically. So, I mean, the self-determination, you get to pick. But if you're just hell bent, you're keeping your combustion engine, then you're gonna basically subsidize people that adopt electric vehicles.
But what about all those people who can't afford it? Who can't afford to heat,
That's all.
who can't afford to get rid of their $1,000 car that gets them back when
I know.
work was the only job they can work.
And this is the issue, and then, so then the legislature says, they're not gonna pass it this year, thankfully, but they'll probably take it up again next year. So they seriously looked at creating a cap on how much what percentage of anyone's income that they're allowed to spend on energy. To make sure that low income people
Yeah,
can
those zero
afford
incomes,
to
yeah.
adopt. That's how they'll have the low income people be able to afford to adopt. The problem then is, so we're subsidizing more affluent people with net metering, we'll be subsidizing low income people with this.
And who's gonna foot the bill?
And we're gonna double the cost, and it's just the middle class.
So middle class.
Yeah, that don't adopt, right,
That's right.
the new technology. So the state, it's not, I'm not even here to argue that where they're trying to take us is right or wrong, it's not the point. But there's some inequities built into this thing that are just intractable. I don't know how you solve this, in the way that they're approaching it, at least they're not thinking clearly is the point.
A question about the tiered, rates. I know the first 200 KW you get is out of the, for a cheap rate, and then you get the next level. There's a level above that if you use too much, right?
Usually, I think our rates include.
I can remember one time I went over that and my bill went sky
They
high.
automatically go into demand rate, right, David?
And then it was like, it stayed that way for like 3 or 4 months,
That's what
till I got
happens.
it lower.
Right.
Now, these houses that go all electric, if they get up to that sky high rate, that same thing happen?
Yeah, but now we're mandated, I forget when this year, but we're mandated to have a time of use rate for electric vehicles at least. So that they can, if they agree to charge at only certain times of the day, they'll actually pay a little bit less. Which will help counterbalance that.
Now, in Massachusetts, they used to have a thing they called the J rate. Right, and it was a demand
Yeah.
type thing. You had 2 meters on your house.
Yeah.
And like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, your dryer wouldn't work and whatever else was plugged into that meter wouldn't work. And if you turned it on, you were paying a really high rate.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to get the peak load down.
Okay, so
The smart meter's gonna do the same thing, but
the smart meter won't do that part, but at least with electric vehicles, we're gonna be doing that with essentially Wi-Fi and Bluetooth technology through the
Through the charger,
manufacturers.
you can do it through my charger, my charger has its own app.
So we'll pull it off of there, and if he doesn't, there's only gonna be 4 hours a day that he can't charge at his house. But if he does charge it at his house during those 4 hours, the electric rate will essentially be double.
So like I can tell it right now, you just park the car, you plug it in, and it'll say, oh, okay, cool, you plugged it in your car, but I'm not gonna do anything until tonight.
So like,
Yeah,
from
even though,
five-
I mean,
five to nine.
it's not significant now, it would make a difference to
Well,
us right now,
speaking of
but
char-
that
charging.
technology's there, it'll do it.
speaking of charging cars, you know, the charging stations in Union Bank, you gotta put your credit card in or, tap your phone or something.
We've never charged anywhere but.
Okay.
So the infrastructure out there, anytime we've tried to use it, it has just been frustrating, we've just not used it.
Broken and-
You either don't, it either doesn't work, it's broken, out of order, or you don't have a contract with that municipality, so you can't use it.
Well, there's 2 charging stations at the house, 2 houses up from me. There's no way to, you just pick the plug up, I guess, and plug it in, there's nothing else there.
Right.
So is that free?
If you have an agreement with that person that owns that charger, I guess.
That's the Memorial Housing Partnership.
Oh, good.
Well, of course.
Good, good. If you came to my house and parked your electric vehicle there and plugged it into my charger,
Yeah.
I would get a text message saying, and it would tell me who you are, because it reads your car, it knows you have an ID. And it would say, so-and-so is trying to charge, would you like to let them? So,
So is the landlord charging the tenants to use that?
I haven't-
Car charger as part of their lease agreement?
I would think that if you can qualify for a Memorial Housing Partnership apartment, you probably can't buy a Tesla.
I was thinking the same thing.
Probably not. It would,
Unless the
where
thing-
David might be going is, if they did do that, it's actually a violation of our tariff. You're not allowed to resell electricity under our tariff. But even these guys with that charger down the public lot,
That's free.
violating our tariff. Because they're reselling electricity.
Well, no, that one's free.
Oh, they don't charge down
There's
there?
no charge there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why there used to be a guy who parked his car there all the time, 24 hours a day.
I didn't know that.
That way he
I
could stay
wonder if
overnight in the
it's,
winter time.
I wonder if it's only class 1, so it's only like low voltage.
Yeah, they're not doing much.
Low voltage, like, because mine is, I think it's called a class 2.
Yep.
So it's 6 hours, 0 to 100% charge of the car.
Yeah.
And then the dump charge is a 3, I think they call that, right? The
Level.
The DC, they call it level 3, yeah.
Yeah.
And this,
easy pass, yeah.
the new place they built next to Maple Fields, they've got one there too.
Yeah.
It's just like the one on Memorial Housing.
You see, they,
Just the plug.
when those went in, those buildings went in, the load data sheet did not have car chargers on them. So I saw the transformer,
Heat pumps either, did it?
on that Gordon Lane, no, they did not.
Well, they got them now.
They do now, and that's a problem because the transformer was not sized for that.
I
Well,
mean, I
if you look-
definitely used up all of my 200 amps, so, I mean, that's an issue.
When Penny gets back running, I'm gonna chat with her about, I asked other utilities that have some aid today, if anyone's doing it, and so far no one is, but we might be first. I'm gonna work on a tariff adjustment so that, electricians will be required to inform us of heat pumps, EVs, or home batteries. We're not trying to deny them, but they need to come talk to us about them before they go in, so that we can look at the transformer. Better to talk to us about the transformer before it pops than after it pops.
Because if I remember right, I remember putting propane tanks in underground,
Too much plugged in at
Too
once.
much, yeah.
Yeah, they did.
and they're still there, you can see the top of them.
The 200 amps,
Your 200 amp service would probably, that would just
that will
pop a
probably
breaker.
go first, right?
Yeah, that would pop a breaker. But, you know, even at a 200 amp, if everything was in, depending on the size of your transformer, and depending on whether your transformer only serves your house or not,
Right.
you know, and all of a sudden you can, when people just start
Oh.
adding this high, like, I always tell people, like, an a level 2 charger like you have.
Yeah.
Is like one of the old fashioned dryers that had the big thick cables in the basement, I know the new.
It does,
Yep.
it does, it's
But
big,
It's like every one of those chargers you put on your house is like adding one of those big old.
the cable,
dryers that made all the lights in your
to
house.
buy the line to go, cause my breaker's on one side of the house and I want it on the other corner. That was almost as expensive as the charger, it was $500 worth of water.
Yeah.
And the charger from Ford was $800.
So nobody's terms and conditions currently require electricians to do that, but
And it's
I asked Steve
60 amps,
Farnham if it would be, if the legislate, if
which is the same as the
PUC
double
would
up.
look kindly or poorly on that, and he said, he thought in today's world, just forcing them to come talk to us about it, he thought it wouldn't be a problem. We should have something we can enforce.
Well,
We need to know when this stuff is going
Is
on.
that statewide? I think in Burlington, if you do anything, you have to get an electrical permit.
You have to get an electrical permit,
Right.
but in Burlington, they have their own inspectors, so people actually have.
That's what I'm saying, and you,
In Morrisville, there's no electrical inspector.
well, you hire somebody part-time.
Well, the point is, nobody does, because they don't really have to. Because the state inspectors don't come out.
Interesting question.
There's like 2 electrical inspectors for the whole state of Vermont,
For the state.
for the whole state. Burlington took primacy from the state, and so they have their own electrical inspector just for the city. And therefore, everything gets inspected in Burlington. So an electricians know, you better not get caught working without an electrical permit in Burlington, or you're gonna tear everything out. In Vermont, no one's ever gonna know you didn't.
So the transformer.
Right. So that's why my argument is.
And we've
we
talked
need to come-
2 people that way so far.
You know, and these batteries, when they go into people's basements, you know, when they're not installed correctly, it's a low percentage, but there's a measurable percentage of house fires that are coming from these Tesla Powerwalls now.
Now, the Tesla Powerwalls, that would only be if they're using solar,
No,
'Cause why would they wanna charge their Powerwall off of the grid?
for when the battery, for when the.
For when you
grid
go
goes.
out.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and people are putting them in, and we don't.
Instead of
know
having
about
it.
So,
Yeah.
so anyway, and we wanna make sure those are all installed correctly, because you put a battery in, but you didn't put the transfer switch in correctly. Now his guys are at risk during an outage.
Transformer.
Well, not only that, firefighters,
Everybody is.
if a firefighter, if that place catches on fire and the firefighters go in there and they don't know,
Right.
you got no firefighters laying around.
So there needs to be some disclosure
More
required, is the point. So not trying to stop people from doing this stuff, but, you know, we need to know for his crew and for the firefighters, you're right. So
Well, right now, apparently, am I wrong? We don't have any recourse. You say you've caught 2 people, what can you do about it?
Well.
What do you mean you've caught 2 people
We
doing
can
what?
try and charge them for our time to go out and change the transformer, plus the
Oh.
cost of the transformer, but.
Because they did something that caused the transformer
Yeah.
damage.
Well, you put new transformers in for Gordon Lane, right?
Mhm.
Or the transformers for just the 2 buildings in the back, or do they include the 2 buildings in the front? Because the ones for the 2 buildings in the front, I think are down by Mike's house.
Those are for the high rise.
Yeah.
The transformer between the first house on Gordon Lane and the one right next to Route 100 are off the same transformer. And that transformer was not sized for heat pumps for a car.
But is it a new transformer?
It is a new transformer.
Okay, so it's not the one my house is.
No.
No, you should totally come check out our transformer, because, you know,
I did the study on that and it was quite lengthy and we may have to revisit that. Are you having issues?
No.
Low voltage?
no, not at all, ever. No, I'm just saying, like, we live in 2 very old Victorians, and then now all of a sudden mine is, you know, 2 big heat pumps and a car charger. I think the car charger is probably insignificant, but the heat pumps certainly aren't.
Yeah.
Those get used.
The car charger is actually significant.
It is.
Yes. A way to look at that is, rule of thumb before the car charger world came on the scene was 3 kVA per house. So I could put up to 3 houses on a 10 kVA. Your car charger, the level 2 car charger is 7.2 kVA
Yeah.
alone. So it's like 2 houses, 2 whole households could be on that.
Our system engineer, and I don't, you may not have even read the study yet, we just recently got the first draft of our futures study of our electric grid from our engineer. And he put that 3 kVA per house, and he was basically arguing, like, you gotta stop using that as a rule of thumb. He said he just finished an analysis, not in Morrisville, but in a nearby town, where in new construction, where the number was 37 kVA for one house.
10 houses.
Yeah, but that probably had, I'll bet you that had a DC fast charge in there.
Oh,
Probably.
well, to have a DC fast charge, you have to have this big
Well,
battery too, for
Right.
that.
Yep, and I'm sure that batteries, it probably was 100% heat pump.
Yeah.
You know, so probably had 5 or 6 or 7 heat pumps, but still, I mean, people are building that stuff now. We haven't got many of them if we've had any, but I know Stowe's had a lot of requests for 400 amp services. You might have had a couple.
We've had a few this year.
I mean, I really think that our houses should be 400 amp services.
What do you have, a 200 amp?
200, yeah.
And it runs you,
I have 2 heat pumps and each one of those is 30 amps. And then I have the car charger, which is a 60 amp, and then I have normal house bill.
now, does your heat pumps heat your whole house?
And cool.
So the only thing that's saving our transformer right now is what's called diversity. Not all that load is at the same time.
Correct.
It's spread out over
Right.
different times of the
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
So the transformer has a chance to cool down and
Yeah.
recover.
But I'm saying, I mean, that's what that's what our town should be, right? That's what our houses should look like. And this was something, you know, like, easy to do.
How many square feet is your house being heated by these heat pumps?
I don't know, look at our houses.
1900, right around 2000, I think.
They're 2 good sized units, you can see them from the, street road there,
Right there.
and they work, they're really nice.
Do they have to tear up the inside of the house to put the ductwork in, or?
No, it's the,
Tubing.
the
Oh,
external
gas.
stuff, yeah, the ugly external tubing, but
So like
it,
It's external.
yeah, it's mini splits, yeah.
So,
And they're both placed, both mini splits are on either side of the house on the 2nd floor. And so all the cooling flows down, and surprisingly, the heat does too, it like works really well. There's nothing on the 1st floor, they're just on the 2nd floor.
Have you had them during a cold winter yet?
Yeah, we've had the -20 and they still worked.
wow. it's
Yeah.
Did
amazing.
you take out your old heating system?
No, it's still there, so it's forced hot water with oil, and our water is, an on-demand oil system with a coil.
Cool.
The heat is down, the thermostat's down to 60, they don't kick on, and we basically use oil for water. Thought about doing the water heat pump, but it's my understanding that cools the basement,
It does.
and, we have a wood stove in the basement, so we do supplement with wood. Cause we do like to burn wood.
My brother has one of those, heat pump type hot water heaters.
Yeah.
In his basement.
Yeah.
And actually, he doesn't have to run a dehumidifier.
Right, so that would be the other thing, but, so yes, there is a giant dehumidifier down there. Because it is a, stone basement with a concrete slab.
And those usually draw a lot too.
If you have a hybrid heat pump, hot water tank,
Yeah, that's what I would
then you,
consider.
it cools, but it's also taking the heat off your wood boiler.
Right, yeah.
Converting it to water.
So it is a changing world we're living in, that's for sure, a lot of
So I'm
challenges.
sure that would be another big 30, 40 in.
We would do a work order for you.
I mean, the first thing was spray foam that house because there was zero insulation and,
Yeah.
old house.
So you had to get it insulated too.
Yeah, we insulated it and then, it has a new roof that has all new windows, all the windows were single pane,
Jeez.
yeah, but it only had 2 owners. I mean, it was a nice house, no one's ever ripped through it and tore it up, so.
We got a tour of that house one time on a trouble call, the sweet little old lady that owned it,
Yeah.
she insisted on us coming in.
Yeah.
I remember it being pretty impressive.
Jesse Quimby?
Yeah,
Yeah, was there like a servant's kitchen or something in the
there's
back?
a back of the house, so there's a back of the house, there's a stairwell that is, this 1/4 of the house is all different. It's, partitioned off many doors, a stairwell that goes basement to attic, all the way up to the 3rd floor. All different moldings and stuff, it's interesting, and then the front of the house is more ornate,
Mhm.
so. Yeah.
That was the Arthur Cheney home.
Yeah.
He owned the drugstore.
And I have all the signs.
Oh, no,
In that shed, yeah.
I've got a Cheney
Yes.
drugstore sign.
Yeah.
Have you?
he was one of the commissioners, wasn't he? Early on?
Oh, boy, he might have been.
And that was the Union Bank, right? They're down the corner, right?
Well, right on the corner where Green Mountain Sports used to be, if any of you remember back that far, before the block burned. But that was Cheney's Drug right on the corner.
I'm not sure, but I think he might have owned my house at one time. I'm gonna go look at my deed, that name's familiar.
He was a Civil War vet, I believe. He had a GAR Kepi. That when he died, or after he died at the auction, I bought that. I was 10 years old, thought it was cool. But, yeah. Arthur Cheney and Tom Cheney, his brother lived across the street. In that big house.
Do you know, was George Cheney related to that same family?
No, different crowd. George Cheney and his brothers were, I believe, out of Waterbury, or, anyway, they weren't related to that branch.
That's true.
Anything else?
No, I think we're ready for executive session.
Okay. Do I have a motion to go into executive session
Yeah, and I'll second it.
we'll call it,
6:44.
44. I almost said 18.
Okay, if you guys want to stay for the first, and then we'll all in for the second piece. Ready?
You still recording?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Record?
You only get one shot, so the line comes pre-charged with these special valves on them. You